There's been lots of news recently about Rocksteady's Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game, and none of it makes the game look very good. But today, we aren't going to talk about this game specifically. Instead, we are going to be talking about some very sad news that involves one of the programmers who have worked on this game, unfortunately taking their own lives over this summer. And there are certain people out there who are trying to blame this unfortunate incident on those who have criticized this game. Before we do this video, I just want to say that the dark side of depression, it's a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I know how it feels when you think the only way out is by unaliving yourself. I was in this position multiple times. I've had family members in this position, so it is something that I do understand well. With this being said, I'm going to try to remain as calm as possible during this video, but I know that things are going to get heated because even just reading some of the responses to this news had me getting angry. On December 29th, a Reddit user by the name of SpiritedFly857 made a post talking about how their brother, a senior AI programmer at Rocksteady, had passed away. This is what the post says. Hey everyone. My brother was a senior AI programmer on the Suicide Squad game that's due to be released in 2024. He passed away in August at the age of 40, suddenly due to the stress of life and work. He was found by the police after I called them as I hadn't heard from him, 5 days after he passed in his apartment. I miss him so much, and so do my parents. On the run up to his death, I had to see how much this game had changed him, how personally he took the critics. I kept telling him they are just opinions and not a slight on his skill, but it was the way he was. I am a person who wears their heart on their sleeves, and like this programmer, I do take criticism personally, especially if it isn't constructive. But when you are working in the video game industry or any industry in general that has you selling something to the public, you have to realize that criticisms on your work are not personal attacks on you. This is the only way you can possibly keep your mental health in check. Because if you do think that everything said about a product that you helped made is a personal attack on you as an individual, it's just going to drive you completely insane. And I know it's easier said than done because, as I've said, I do take a lot of criticism personally. But when you are putting work out there for the public to see, for the public to play, you need to expect some criticism of it because people have the right to criticize your product. He put his heart and soul into his work in the games industry, and it's the stress, in my opinion, that killed him. I hope all the games he worked on will be a part of his legacy. There is a memorial in this game to him in the city square. Excuse me on my terms, I'm not as big of a gamer as my brother was. I've seen this and I was a part of the approval for the memorial. I can't even play on my console anymore without thinking of him. Every game reminds me of him. I'm crying and it breaks my heart he was not able to see this game to the end, but he had many other games out there that he worked on in his 16-year career. He was extremely smart and talented at what he did. He cared much more than most about his work, which is why we are in this situation now. It seems that there are some people out there who are interpreting that last sentence I read as the sister placing some blame on the critics for this programmer taking his own life. But the fact is, it isn't the critics' fault that this man did what he did. When you are working on a project that is going to be sold to the public is going to criticize it, especially if it is bad. In this situation, you need to be able to realize that you just aren't going to please everyone, and that at the end of the day, you are there just to do your job. It's not the programmer's fault that the development studio decided to go with a live service model for a game, or that the writing for a game sucks. You have to remember that you are being paid to do what you are told to do, and when it comes to working, there are just some things that are completely out of your control. I have nothing but sympathy for his sister. The toll of this sort of action, it's almost always paid for by the family of the deceased. She does seem like a good person that knew her brother is struggling, and the strength it takes to make a post like this, especially knowing that the general feel for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is not a good one, is just tremendous. But there's always going to be people who try to use these tragic events to push their own narrative. And in this situation, it is no different because people are trying to imply that the reason why this man took his own life was because of the critics and not the personal demons that he and anybody else with depression faces on a day-to-day basis. Oftentimes, in cases like this, when someone does unalive themselves, it is no one's fault, but some people just cannot understand this. One of these people is a big YouTuber by the name of Aaron Caboose, who made this tweet here, and in all honesty, I thought nothing of it. I just thought it was someone expressing their sympathy. That was until I read the last half of the tweet, and this is what it says. Game devs put their heart and soul into work entirely dedicated to entertaining us. It's disgusting to see how some people treat them online. To me, it seems like Caboose is implying that a part of the reason why this programmer took his own life was because of the hate he received online. But I didn't really want to jump the gun at believing that this is what he meant, because to me, only a complete idiot would actually believe that the reason he unalived himself was because of the critics of this game. So I headed to the comment sections, and after reading his replies to some of them, I honestly do think that this is what he was implying. A user going by the name of TerryB2YT made a reply to this tweet that said this: "The blame falls entirely to WB Games management / higher ups, not the people online." And Aaron went ahead and replied to this comment with, "For some reason, people like yourself are so protective of your negative opinion that you can't even put that aside in a situation like this. Get a grip. You can dislike a game and still be respectful towards developers. They're not mutually exclusive." Saying that people online are not at fault for this developer tragically taking his own life isn't a negative opinion, and the only way you would think so is if you actually believe that the reason why this developer took his own life was because of the people online. I might be misinterpreting what Caboose means, but it does feel like that they are trying to say the reason why this programmer did what he did was because of the critics. And after looking at his YouTube channel, I do believe that this is the case, because the main content that he does cover are DC and Marvel games. It does seem that he fanboys for them, and this behavior is typical of a die-hard fanboy. They will use anything they possibly can to push a certain narrative about the games that they love. And in this case, it seems like Aaron isn't too happy with the criticisms that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is receiving, so he's trying to do whatever he possibly can to get people to shut up. At the time of recording this, it has been 4 days since Caboose made that tweet, and he has been active on Twitter, yet he never actually clarified what he meant, which makes me believe all the more that he does truly think this man's death is because of the critics. Never mind the fact that this man's death took place before the major leaks. It happened all the way back in August, and the only thing ever put out there at that time that wasn't released by the developers of this game were the images that were released all the way back in January of last year. Aaron Caboose has also blocked me on Twitter, and the only thing GamerGeek did this time was simply say that trying to push this narrative makes you a piece of crap. As someone who suffers with depression on a day-to-day basis, who has been in the position before of wanting to unalive themselves, I think my opinion about this situation should hold some weight. The fact that he blocked me rather than saying, "Hey dude, that's not what I meant, I'm not trying to put this narrative out there," just really hammers the nail in the coffin for me that this is exactly what he was trying to do. And folks, this is a part of the video where I start to get fucking angry, because let me be clear, if you are trying to push this narrative, you are a piece of shit. Plain and simple. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it for you. You trying to pass the blame of the death of someone dealing with mental health issues on people who have every right to criticize a product that is going for sale is completely fucking idiotic. When someone makes a decision to do something like this, unless they're being literally fucking goaded to end it, it is no one's fault. And as you can see, nowhere in the Reddit post that the sister made did she say the reason why he did unalive himself was because of the critics. If you are looking to blame someone, which you really shouldn't, because sometimes the only out people think they have is the death, you should be looking towards the developers. The video game industry is a very stressful industry and you are worked to the bones. Rocksteady should have better support systems in place to help people deal with mental health issues. In fact, there's even more of an argument to be made that this was Rocksteady's fault and not the critics, because the sister herself says that the programmer wasn't happy with the direction that Rocksteady was going in with Kill the Justice League. So there's a good possibility that this programmer actually agreed with some of the criticisms that this game had been receiving. But let me say this again, just to be clear, it is no one's fault. When I talk about Rocksteady, I'm only talking about if you are looking for someone to blame, which you really shouldn't be, because situations like this is just sometimes out of anybody's control, and that is the unfortunate reality of it. This situation is a very sad one, but using this to try to push your own narrative is one of the slimiest things you can possibly do, and it makes you a piece of shit. I want to be clear about one thing though, because if the sister didn't mean in her Reddit post to imply that it is the critics' fault, I just want to say that I am not calling her a piece of crap, because the sister, she is grieving, and as someone who has lost a very close family member recently, I more than understand that when someone you care about dies, you look for something to blame, especially if that death is unexpected. And the easiest thing to blame in the case of this developer are the critics. The sad fact is, anyone who is dealing with depression is facing their own demons every day, and sometimes those demons do win. My sympathy goes out to the family of this programmer, and I hope them nothing but peace in the future and that they are able to move on from this tragic event. If you want to hear more about this situation, check out Cult Classic Cage's video that's linked in the pinned comment. The only reason I even knew about this was because of her video covering the subject. She's an amazing content creator, and I do highly suggest you check her out. At the end of my videos, I try to end things on a positive note. That is why I say that I hope everybody has an amazing and wonderful day. But instead of saying that today, I'm going to say this instead. Take care of yourselves, and if you have a family member or a friend who is dealing with depression, make sure to check in on them, because dealing with depression can feel like a very lonely battle, and knowing that someone is there to carry some of that burden, it can really lift a person's spirit and just give them the push they need to overcome what they are facing. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.